Hello everyone. For everyone still outside and everyone in here, we would kindly ask you to come inside as we are going to start the first round of our presentations. For everyone listening in the stream, really sorry about you not being able to be here at the Baergarten in Berlin for our 5th anniversary. So everyone, please come inside if you would like to see the first presentation. And here's some background from Stefan and me. So see you probably in like 1 minute, I hope. And I'm then going to fetch the second microphone. Checking a little bit. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So let's see, I'm going to walk under here, going to come up here.
Hello and welcome to the 33rd TouchDesigner Roundtable. And for those of you who have not noticed, despite all our efforts, this is exactly 5 years ago on this day that we did the first TouchDesigner Roundtable at the Node Institute. I said before, I think the numbers like us because we like the numbers. So this is 5 years exactly. We were playing in 10 locations, meeting in 10 locations. We had 119 speakers, and that is after normalizing the value, taking out 38 times Markus Heckmann. So he's only one of those 119. Otherwise it would be unfair. We have exactly today, around midnight, we have also reached the 10,000 followers on Instagram, which is achievements without doing selfies at all. And to celebrate that, we want to give 10% off on all our courses for the next 5 days. So you only have to use the code NODELOVE10 on checkout. The next 10 days. Okay. Even nicer than I thought. So 10% off the next 10 days. This almost sounds like Elbrus would say that. Well, and this is how it started. This is not the first TouchDesigner Roundtable. This is the first.
It was the TouchBAR. It basically, yeah, when we had the summit, the TouchDesigner Summit in Berlin, I think it was the second one, which was, it feels like it was smaller than our biggest roundtable, which is kind of an achievement, I suppose. So kudos to you and everyone here. Applaud yourself for a moment and applaud us. But I remember Philip coming to me during the summit and being like, hey, you speak German, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And you're from Berlin. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, hey, you know what? Let's do this whole community get-together thing. And my office at this time was at the back room of a bar in Berlin Wedding. So it wasn't even like Neukölln or anything interesting in some way. So I started the TouchBAR once a month, get together, and we had normally like one presentation. I think 50% of it was Stefan. Because he lived around the corner, so I suppose this was one of the reasons why he was around a lot, but also, I don't know, is Jana here? No. She's one of the persons in the picture. The other one is David. Definitely two people who are coming regularly for now 6 years to this kind of events. Sadly, they are not here today, but maybe next time. And basically, I think we did 8 pieces. We did a little bit of streaming. We tried different things, but we never really got about 5 people, maybe 6 people. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to stop, because there wasn't really a gain in this situation. But what we learned doing the roundtable and in general doing this style of events is there's one thing, and this one also goes to people in the stream in other cities and other countries, trying to form a community like we have now in Berlin, thanks to Derivative, but also thanks to us, is never stop. This is like the key part. Is we, after Stefan started, 5 years on the day, after he started, or we started actually, the roundtable, like restarted the whole TouchBAR thing, we never stopped for 5 years, and now we are here. I think that's the key.
The Olympic Stadium of Berlin. Well, I think we also have to give credit to David and the Node Forum, because he kind of started to do the V4 meetups, which was a big inspiration. They also still happen. They're also a lovely community, and they gave a lot of inspiration for that. But yeah, from this meetup with 2 participants, I struggled to find a picture of the biggest TouchDesigner Roundtable event, which was in a planetarium, but there's no pictures of the audience, so I picked this one from Monopol. Hey, Jose, thank you for having us, which at least was one of the biggest rooms we've been ever in. Yeah, and for us, it has been a great trip, these 5 years. We kind of stumbled across the fact that it's already 5 years by accident, and then it was like, oh my God, we have to do something, because it's exactly on that date. That's why we picked this place, where we can have a bit more beer and pizza than usual, and a bit more music, and less talks to celebrate. Yeah, and we're here at the TouchDesigner Roundtable. Sorry for the bad presentation, it was very last minute. This is also the time to think about what we want to do in the future. And I mean, as you all witnessed, the thing has been growing, but it also has gotten a lot more professional. There's a lot more work happening in the back end, and it's a bit at the point where it's a bit too much to do it every month, just like that, for free and so on. So the ideas that we're juggling with is kind of splitting up the format, going bi-monthly, having something that might not be called the TouchDesigner Roundtable, but that keeps up the presentations, that keeps up the streaming, that tries to bring an even wider community together, which is not limited to TouchDesigner, but also includes our friends from the V4 community and from Cables and the AI people and all the people who are interested in creating cool and nice experiences, be it art or be it commercial. And another format which will be much less effort in the sense of no streaming, no entrance. People can just come with their laptops and jam together and explore. And both of them are supposed to be super open, of course, as always, and friendly, but kind of taking two different passes to cover a wider area and to make it a bit more sustainable for us.
In the long run, but also coming a little bit back to the more local community part of the TD events, of the roundtable events, opening up for one, but also on the other hand, going a little bit more hands-on in a smaller circle, kinda. So hopefully in the long run, something for everyone that is involved, that is attending. And for that reason, I sat down and created a little survey. And I would really love everyone to take out their phone, scan this QR code, and fill out the survey, because this... you also have like a one there, because this will help us a lot in understanding, getting a better understanding of you as a community, about your needs, your wants, and based on that, being able to shape the potentially two new formats that we are thinking about right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, and not only with the survey, of course the survey is helpful, but also if you have any ideas, things that you feel this should move towards to, we're very approachable, please talk to us. And in the end, this is all about you, right? So we're super privileged to month by month get this incredible group of people together and learn from you and bring you together and all the sharing. And we want to continue with that, of course. So we really like to hear from you what you would like to see also, or what we would like to have to happen. And because we have the numbers day.
Yeah, next week, because some people are or were kind of confused about the whole, what is the Spatial Media Lab, what is the Node Institute? We as the Spatial Media Lab, and so for example Thomas on the audio desk and now me, we are part of the Spatial Media Lab. Also, we have Phelan over there as a member. Who else is a member yet? Because you can get a member.
Marcus is a member.
Oh, Marcus is also a member. And yeah, basically we got funded also 1 year ago as an association, and we are going to celebrate next week at our HQ in Berlin-Weißensee, where we already had several touch designer specific events thanks to the Node Institute. And you're all very welcome to join and maybe also find a new love for specifically or quite focused on audio. So if you're interested in a lot of the audio parts of Spatial, then feel free to come. If you're not interested, still come around. You're always welcome.
I can't help to mention that that's then the 15th meetup. So the numbers keep matching up. That's how you find to the barbecue meetup of the Spatial Media Lab. And that is our last slide.
Yeah.
We made it. Thank you again for making this happen. And now we're super happy to introduce the first speaker of this evening. It's Henrik Mauler, also known as Zeitgeist. He has a design and art practice in Berlin, and we're very curious to learn more about that now. Thank you for coming, Henrik.
Das da? Ja? Okay. Gut. Jetzt möchte ich das erstmal hier ausschalten. Hallo. So. Ah ja, okay, das funktioniert. Hallo. Ja, ich bin Henrik. I'm Henrik. Sorry, I was speaking English, right? I had way too much of that. I shouldn't have drank it all. Anyways, yeah, I have a little bit of an attention deficit problem, so it might be a little bit jumbled, but don't worry, just gloss over it. Just imagine that you know, fill in the blanks if I miss something. Yeah, I'm new to this scene. I've been to a couple of TouchDesigner Roundtables, and but I don't personally practice TouchDesigner that much yet. I'm lucky to have an office, and I'll share office with Josef Pelz, whom you probably all know. And he introduced TouchDesigner to our office, and we all got pretty hooked. So I'm also here. It's part of the topic that I think a little bit what I've been doing for the last 20, 30 years is a little bit coming to an end, and is a bit of a dead thing. And that means I'm doing 3D. But I've been doing a lot 3D for images, and as you all know, with AI, the advent of AI, this might become obsolete soon. And this is a good thing, and yeah, it's not per se a bad thing for me, and I want to show how, but I also want to just say that a lot of the things you will be seeing, you know, it's the past, but I'm also trying to show you my way out of it, or maybe a way into the future, and that might be something that we can share. Yeah, so yeah, I borrowed that subtitle from Manuel de Landa, who wrote the book War in the Age of Intelligent Machines. If you don't know it, read it, it's really good. Yeah, okay, so presentations are, yeah, I never know how to start. While I was making the presentation, I was, because I can't do one thing only, so I was watching a comedian on the side, and his name is Shane Gillis. I don't know if you know him, but he does a really good Trump impression, but that you can, I don't want to get into that, but he said something at some point, and oh no, I thought, while I was watching it and doing the presentation, I thought, oh, comedy, stand-up comedy is so much more fun than doing lectures about computer art, blah, blah, blah. And then he suddenly said something, he was distracted by music in one of his stand-up comedies, and he said like, he always thinks like, music is so much better than stand-up comedy. So then I thought, oh yeah, maybe we can just skip the whole thing and go to the music right away. But anyways, I'm taking shortcuts here that are not allowed. Anyways, art. Why digital art? That I never wondered that. Or why? What the reason for calling digital art art could be? I never wondered that, but that thought was put into me later, and I want to show you a little bit a short history of Zeitgeist and me, how that question came to be. So I was born in East Germany, not in 1982, but that was me in 1982. No, it was not me, but it looked. I was about that age in 1982. Let's put it like that. But why I chose this image is that this is basically what my surroundings looked like. We were in this really newly built Plattenbau, and there was only dirt around it and in the middle, and it was fun. I had a bad childhood, but not because of that. So that was actually the fun part, playing in the dirt with nothing. I mean, we had some toy guns and things like that, but you know, we lived in a really militarized state, so that was okay. Nobody was having any second thoughts about it. But yeah, so that was the fun part. I just want to give you that as a backdrop, because I think in my perception, my childhood was really gray and black and white in a way. And then my parents emigrated to West Germany. They didn't do it in a fun way. They went through prison, but when I came to West Germany, and I remember that night stepping off the train, it kind of, this happened. I somehow my world went from black and white to very colorful. And I was overwhelmed. I was 7 at that age. And yeah, that was a kind of a backdrop, because I still really like gray, and I still really do love colors, but I have a love for glowing pixels that came about later, because it was the time in the 80s when a lot of mediums were starting to be computer generated. And so that was my mom in the living room. We had this computer, and no, but it was similar to, I did my first generative art in 1986. That's actually true, because we had this French computer, Thomson TO770. Does anyone know that? No one knows it. But it was actually quite common in the 80s. And it was great because it had a light pen, and that's why I chose this image, because I didn't do 3D on it, but it was great to be painting on the screen, physically with light. For me, that was very defining moment. And there was no software available, so I was 12 years old, and I had to start coding. And yeah, I didn't have the mathematical means or anything, but I went into it, and yeah, it was great. And so it was like a little bit like that in the background, abstract lines. I loved abstract art. Everything was fantastic. And later on in 1988, I did my first 3D rendering on an Amiga 500. Some of you might know that, probably. And that's a proper screenshot with a physical camera. That's why it still exists, because the data that doesn't exist anymore. I kept the diskette, the disk, but of course the data is unreadable. So yeah, that's going to be the fate of a lot of our work as well at some point. But we can get into that later. But I wanted to say, yeah, this rendered a whole day, and it's like 320 by 200 pixels. So it was not, I wasn't getting into animation right away. So 2001, this was my first VR installation in what's called a cave, this projection space. Back then it was at the Fraunhofer Institute. And in between, I studied architecture. And what happened in between was that I had I had sorts of family issues all the way, but I had strong headwind from my dad to become an artist. He absolutely didn't want me to become an artist. So, person that I was trying to weasel it in. So I studied architecture at an art school, so which was kind of like, saying I'm doing something proper, but I was doing it at an art school. So, of course, that ruined everything. And yeah, at the art school, it was an arts and crafts school, so computers were the tool of the devil. And that's where I was confronted with that question that I said earlier: why digital art? What's the reason for being? Why is it allowed to be called art? Or what? Why? So I turned it into how, because this love of my pixels was rejected, obviously, by the peers and by the professors, and I tried to reconciliate it. And I was looking for what can be done with computers that hasn't been done before. And how is it not just a rationalization tool, to make something quicker that we have all been doing before, or make it more accessible or whatever. So what is the actual potential of innovation? And so I was seeking. It came a little bit later. And that's where already my presentation gets jumbled, because I basically invented the Boolean camera. Let's put it like that. So I was looking for how did previous stages of visual progress, what happened. And I was looking at, cubism and, polyvalent perspectives, and then I was looking at what can be done in a medium that is inherently simulating 3D space on a 2D plane. And I was going into the technical details of it, but then I made a shortcut and I thought, okay, why not project a 3D object through another 3D object? And that's how I invented the Boolean camera. And that was, that work, what was called later Kontaktschmelze. And I made more out of it because then in 2004, I realized I used punk as a conciliator between all the things that were allowed to be and not allowed to be. And basically, I was trying to show the medium. I was trying to show or find the extremes in 3D software that were supposed to give like high gloss, high production value elements, but trying to find extremes. And within a simulated space as a design playground. And the next outcome was this. Oh, sorry, and I think because of it's not GEMA free, maybe the music, maybe you have to, for streaming, you have to turn it off for this. I forgot to mention it. Zeitgeist with Jamie, who some of you might know, and we basically started doing things, not knowing what we would get into, and these were the first, let's say, the first milestones, and this was supposed to, allegedly, it started a movement that then became later something big on the social media, and I don't know. It's up to you to decide. I didn't research that probably, but it's probably true. There's a little bit of background story to this. I'm not showing the whole thing, I think. I was a fan of Funkstörung, the German Autocrat, as they were called back then, and they had a new album coming out, and it was 1 week or 2 weeks before their deadline. They had an open call to submit artwork for their new album, and there was only one little lullaby left for that didn't have images yet or someone to make it, and I took it, and within 2 weeks I made this thing, and it won in Oberhausen later the next year, and so forth. And in the same vein, 2008 Peripetics was the start of where, I think back in that time, people didn't really regard, everybody who did 3D back then was doing either dragons or spaceships or robots, and it wasn't regarded as a medium for sculpture, performance, or any kind of visual art. And so that felt like an opening. And one of the, Peripetics was probably then also a game changer, or something that started something that wasn't there before. I'll show a little snippet of it. I'm really worried about timing. That's why I'm so hasty, because I know we only have very short amount. So yeah, so what happened after was basically we got signed by a production company in London, had a lot of clients over the years, a lot of commercial work in, automotive, material, kind of, sneakers, whatever. The whole, what you can imagine comes with territory, so to say. And it was also a time, it was always challenging. I mean, like there were so many ups and downs, and you can't imagine I think I went through 2 or 3 major burnouts and a couple of smaller ones. And I think that we could talk about the whole exploitation of self and others in this industry. But I don't want to go too far because I have a really nice project in the end that I want to show you that, that I want to get to, so I'm kind of rushing it. Anyways, this is a project where this 2016, where we employed only purely procedural and algorithmic design processes to simulate fabrics, but not to simulate the fabric itself, but we wanted to simulate a purely parametric, purely digital design process. And often people didn't get that, but those who did understood it, and that's why it got bought by the Victoria and Albert Museum in London in 2021, because it was the first parametric textile design project at the time. And because we were showing the design process, I'll show you this image, you can see a little bit, there's a snippet running in the background, but the actual process, the actual project is what's on the left. At some point we had like 80 different scenes simulated, but then we realized it's not about that. And then we took 10 scenes of that and went through iterations of different material designs, and probably like only a digital designer can do it. On all these parameters that are manipulatable. We wanted to show a slow progress over time, and and the result was, we got a few awards for it, but I think the biggest honor was that it's in the permanent collection of the V&A for its historical value. And there's, if you ask the people who are doing anything in virtual garments now, they say allegedly, they tell you that this was the piece that got it started. Of course, we then went on to, work a lot with other material companies and fabric simulations. But at the same time, and that's, that's kind of the successful side to it, but at the same time there was also a rebellious side that always thought, no, it's not about realism, it's still about what's the purpose of how can digital art be different? What can be made different? So parallel to what you just saw, we had an ongoing struggle, or at least I had, ongoing struggle to find something different. And this, for example, this was not allowed to be. It was art made by a computer. It was basically database modeling. It was a script that was running random shapes and fused them together randomly, and a few got picked, and these are the results. And back then, 2005, nobody understood what that was for. Or nowadays, I think it's not difficult to explain. But this was one of the. Yeah, and we 3D printed some stuff. They still exist to this day because it nicely printed as an what are they called? Sinter models. And yeah, so on the side, we got together with other artists, and we were often asked to remix their projects. And so I call that the vandalism and prosthetics time. So here we got together with Nick and Chloe, who themselves wanted to venture out into like a soft porn kind of genre, and they asked us to enhance the image with our 3D stuff, and we said, we're going to vandalize, we're going to destroy the image, destroy it in a way that we keep the image intact as it is, but just add something that completely collapses the meaning of the intention, the first intention. So yeah, there was a whole series, there was a big debate about if it's allowed to cut her feet off, and yeah, but it was a fun project in the end. We then did that did prosthetics for landscapes, for architectures. We did, yeah, prosthetics for, these are bookends. And then this is something more recent, some prosthetics for bread, which I like because it, they show kind of a dual prosthetics. They're prosthetics of each other. Like the one is the prosthetic of the other, and they complement each other with different, they live in different systems of value. Or if you put them together, then they have extremes of value. So the one you can eat, the other one you can't. The one is valuable as a material, the other one isn't. But they both belong sort of in the same realm. So yeah, we made, this is already, this year we had the third series of this, and online are only 2, but on Instagram is already the third. And yeah, it was fairly, I don't know, successful, or it got good feedback. And the third series is at the moment on show in Turin at the Museum of Asian and Oriental art. Yeah, and but I wanted to come closer to the project that I want to show you. So this is a project that started out as we wanted to dysfunctionalize everyday objects, objects that you overlook, objects that you see in every household. When you look in Berlin for a flat and you see the pictures when it's occupied, then you see, these cheap Baumarkt tables and chairs, and you overlook them. They're considered bad design in the design community, but we wanted to elevate them, and so we wanted to make these kind of prosthetics for them. This is how the project started out with Chris from Ugly, Stupid, Honest, and Bastian Deneni. And later on, it never really got exhibited in that way, and we had these prosthetics left over. And so this then turned out to be an urban prosthetics project, some with AR. So we tried to enhance things that we found by making them unusable through these prosthetics. And yeah, and this is where I'm very proud of it, because it's the only time I properly and seriously used TouchDesigner so far, is here, that I use it as a layout tool to make a kind of a collage movie of it. And because it's really nice how you can run 4K footage all at the same time, in real time, and yeah, screen capture the whole thing. And yeah, some AR experiments in there. Some more prosthetics there's a whole project about cemeteries and prosthetics. I'm short of in time, so I'm just rushing through this project a little bit until Yeah, recently we did something for Alicia Keys, but it's not so. Oh yeah, okay. The Rumpel graph. This is the project I wanted to show you, because maybe you understand it, because not many people understand it. I'm trying to make it, clear. So this was conceptualized as a prosthetic for NFTs, and it's an autonomous vanilla vandalism bot. Vanilla vandalism because it doesn't really vandalize the original NFT. It vandalizes a digital copy of the NFT. So that's why I call it vanilla. Anyways, the result is something like this. And it's okay, what is it? Why is it called Rumpelgraph? It comes from Rumpelstilzchen. I don't know, it's a German story from the Grimms. And yeah, I don't know if you know it, but they basically, he makes gold from straw. So basically, again, value. The same topic. I like this one better, this depiction of him, because he looks a bit more energetic than the other one. So it's basically a generative art bot. So what does it do? It works following. Okay, but the concept and aesthetic, I have to go through this, sorry. So it's vandalism. It's appropriation art because it steals someone else's art to base new art on. It's constructivist in kind of its formal nature. It has Art Nouveau symmetry. It looks a bit like postmodern architecture follies. Has the resemblance of 3D graffiti, and this is the result. So it's kind of a moving architecture folly made from someone else's art. So here's how it works. So it existed on our server, and you could summon it on Twitter. It has its own Twitter account. You can go to it, Rumpelgraph. You can see it is still there. And so basically, in your tweet, when you tweet a new NFT or when you make a new one, you just and announce it on Twitter. You do #RumpelMe. And alternatively, if no one calls it, then it randomly picks one. It listens on the Twitter API and looks for newly minted NFT art. So this is really an exciting example, because this is apparently, I don't know much about NFTs, but this is apparently really Xcopy is a really famous NFT artist. And he wrote in January, "Soon the bots will absorb our art and retaliate in real time." And this happened in May. So someone sent this with RumpelMe. So then the Rumpelgraph, he gets to work, and there's an analyzation process of the image, and blah, blah. It's all code. Oh yeah, I have to say, I worked with Julius Steinhauser, who did all the coding in the back, and he's the genius coder behind it. I don't want to forget him, because he's actually who could make this crazy idea work. So so from the found image, it makes this, it's basically generative. So it makes it. It can make it in real time, but because I really wanted to have this intricate line art, architectural line art drawing, so it takes a while to render, like 5 minutes or so. And then it mints it, and it did mint it back then when it was still running on Theia, on Tezos, on the Tezos network, and makes a unique work out of it, and puts it in the feed. This is, I don't know, does it still? You never can go back in PowerPoint. It's only allowed. So the first series was 100 of them. And they sold out within think about 2 hours or so. Yeah, but the fun thing is that it automatically, by itself, it quotes the original tweet, tweets about it, so you can see them in conjunction. It's the you can see the reference between the two. And it had also, Julius made a genius little code snippet. It just took whatever fly buzzwords were on Twitter at that moment and made a title out of them. And sometimes they sounded really, and there were bad things in there. But it was almost even more fun than just the visual side. Okay, yeah, and then it goes on to the next one. So this is how the process works. And yeah, you could, if you go to the Twitter account, you can see them all side by side. And I was every time I got a message then when it finished something, and I got so excited because the colors and everything, the whole formal adventure of having something new that I didn't create. I just made the formal setup and surrounding, but each piece was unique, and so you never knew what you were getting. So it was very exciting to then get these tweets live and see, there's another one. Anyways, so that's my favorite project that I'm most proud of from all the work that I have. But I think nobody really gets why, because it's just a personal thing. But I just wanted to say, image making, as we've been doing it with 3D for CGI art, or for I think that's at an end, but we have so much more that we can do with 3D, and at the moment it's an exciting time. I just spoke to someone before that took all the energy out of me because all the ideas that I wanted to say that are now in him. But you can like we've been doing architecture, we've been doing fashion. You can do physics, chemistry, meteorology, material design. 3D is a key technology of this age, and having it done for imagery and animation was a bit of a waste, but it paid the bills. But I think now is an exciting time, because now I think we can put 3D to work in more exciting areas, because I think the future of 3D is live, real-time, spatial, anything that TouchDesigner is geared up for. And recently, I didn't get into those projects yet, but recently I've been working in real time a lot with Unreal Engine, which is so much fun. I kind of have a strong phantom pain whenever I finish something. I think, okay, now we have to render. Oh no, we don't have to render, it's already done. And it feels, because I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, it feels like something's missing. And yeah, I don't know, it's like somebody cut your limb off, and you still feel it, but I'm glad it's not there anymore. Anyways, thank you, and yeah, I hope that was semi-concise.
Thank you for this very entertaining talk, which overstretched at least half an hour over what we've been talking about. But because it was so entertaining, we didn't feel the urge to stop.
See, I would have much more to talk about. I already made like a 10% version of a 20% version.
So you know what?
You can ask me personally if you have any questions or doubts or.
Now you know what the future of this format is. Like we find out about the other 90%. Yeah, we don't have that much time for questions, because we want to continue at 9 with Markus, who's waiting there in the sidelines. So we have maybe 5 minutes for questions. We're not going to have a big break. If you want to get some drinks before Markus starts, maybe do it now.
Someone
I found
has
it
a question.
very fascinating to listen to you because we talked about this before. We have a bit of a parallel biography. I'm interested a bit in, so you're doing art. There's always the strong questions and there's clear art projects, but on your website and while you were skipping through, we see that you also do quite some commercial work. How do you kind of balance it? Like how do you direct your energy?
Yeah.
Do you do art when there is no commercial job, or do you actually say no to Chanel?
Yeah.
Because
No, I don't
now I
say
need
no
to
to
do art
Chanel. But yeah, basically when, there's a lot of ups and downs in the process. And part of the process is if you don't publish interesting work, you kind of get off the radar of companies that want to hire you. So we live kind of in it's very volatile. It's very weird, hand to mouth kind of thing. So, and if we publish something, then we get more work than we can do. And then we work our ass off and we're super, you easily burn out. And then, but at the same time, you don't feed, new work and new ideas. And I think this kind of work, it's a kind of a beast that needs to be fed always. You need to constantly have new output, otherwise people forget you. And then, but that's also a good thing I realized. And after a while, people forget you, and then there's a quiet time when you have to gather new momentum and have new ideas and do new work. And so it's kind of a pig cycle, the whole thing.
The yo-yo.
So yeah, but yeah, sometimes I did do shit artwork in times when there was a lot of pressure on the commercial side and I didn't pay attention I got requests for, you can do this artwork, there's a display there, blah, blah, blah. And usually I would, go in it 150% and try to make something nice, but sometimes it happened that it didn't. And the other way around. Sometimes we had an interesting art project and the commercial project went to shit because nobody paid attention. But so it's not an easy thing. I would love to only do art, but somebody has to pay the bills. And we managed somehow to have a really high standard. We managed to get clients, or we get into an area where we get hired by clients to do semi-independent artwork, which I find it's a privilege, but it also means sometimes we can't show it because we do that as a research project for bigger brands or tech companies, and so we're not allowed to show it. So that then has the effect, everybody's like, well, you're off the radar, you're not doing anything. I said, no, we're busy, we're doing things, but we can't show it. So yeah, there's all sorts of sides to everything.
Do we have questions from the audience? Yeah.
There's a yeah.
Where's the yeah? Ed.
Me again.
You again.
Hey, I've wanted to hold this microphone and talk to you for years. Zeitgeist and Rasta Noton were like the reasons I came to Berlin, 2008.
See, I told you, there's these people.
So peripetics
Yeah.
caused shockwaves in the motion design world. And it was one of these things where everyone who saw peripetics was like, oh, well, motion design is more than just commercial. It's more than just making brands look good. It could be a culture. It could have its own language.
Yeah.
Now I think we're in the age of man versus machine, and we're in the age of 3D being able to do these incredibly weird, realistic-looking, but very, very intangible things. There's no real discourse about what motion graphics is. When I saw peripetics, I thought, well, this is the beginning of a culture. This is the start of an artistic movement where people are going to talk about what abstract animation could be and what it is and where art can take it.
Yeah.
And instead it's just been, in my opinion, it's just been super commercial.
Yeah.
So we've got these amazing studios doing this amazing work for fucking brands.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
And you're the person I want to ask about this. Like, where do you think it could have gone, and where do you think motion graphics and 3D could have gone?
Yeah, I mean, you're omitting Alan Warburton, who is. Thanks for pointing this out. And I've been in contact with him a couple of times. Paul mentioned it to me. He did some good essays on that in 2012 and 2016, and you know, he was coming from an academic discourse kind of. He said, like, let's put this into a discourse context. What are these images about? Exactly what you're saying. Like, what's the spectrum? There's this high gloss spectrum, and then there's artists who work with low-cost means, with their own means. Nowadays, there's artists who don't know CG at all, but employ studios to make high-gloss images. Ah, yeah, I see. So, and yeah, and he did a. I can't really properly give it a context here, but I think he put it in good words. You know, what the extremes are in these and where all these in-betweens come from, and where there should be a discourse. But, I mean, I think he's doing a PhD, and he maybe got a job at a university, but other than that, there's not much discourse. And I lament that. I think, yeah, I would love to. I think, yeah, I often thought about I should do it. But maybe if I have less work, then I could... I could invite people, because I think it's necessary to talk about it, because it's there's so much, it's such a big part of visual culture, but there's everybody contemplates it probably in their bedroom, but I don't know where, but on the toilet, but it's not it's not a public discourse, and I think it's lacking. Yeah, I agree. I'm ready for it. I'm up for it. Who wants to? Cool. Yeah, let's talk about it. I was thinking of doing something like a YouTube format, or where I invite people that I think have something to say, and we can chat about this. Because I think for a long time, I don't know if you know Chris Hoffman of Ugly, Stupid, Honest. For a long time, he was working for Zeitgeist, and a lot of, I think the time when we had our second kid, and he basically took over the language. He understood the language of Zeitgeist, and I think for a couple of years it was just him basically. He was doing the face of Zeitgeist. So a lot of his work, I must say, is what Zeitgeist was at that age between 2013 and 2015, 16. And it was great because I'm an early bird and he was too, and so we met. Usually people come in at 10, 12 to the office, and we were there at 8. And so we had 2 hours for ourselves, and we had these great talks. I thought, I wish we would have recorded it, because we talked about nothing but this. Talked about image, discourse, CG, 3D, what it all means culturally, technically, everything, the whole shebang. And it was great. We had these, and it was just, just for fun. It was just our morning routine. And yeah, so something like this, would be a good format for me, because I can't, prepare, and I can just talk ad lib from the get-go. We need it. I know. I need it too.
So thank you for this.
Yeah,
great
I have to
talk.
get off stage.
I think you're the official record holder for the longest talk. And now we come to the next official record holder for the most talks. Markus Heckmann. Of course, he doesn't need introduction. I will introduce him nevertheless. He's technical director with Derivative, but he's also a media artist. And he's, like I mentioned before, a regular at the TouchDesigner Roundtable, and also a great help. And so we're very happy to have him again, and looking forward to what news and rumors from the TouchDesigner world he's going to present to us today. I should extend this moderation while Markus is plugging the last plugs.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I just need battery.
Yeah, I will also take the moment to realize a little fuck up in regard to the QR code about the survey. So you again have the chance to scan the QR code. I'm going to leave it on the screen for a little bit longer, so you can all scan it and take the survey. But Markus, thank you for being here.
I should take the survey as well. Do you want me to start or wait for the QR code? Start, okay.
You're on.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. And first of all, happy birthday again to the Roundtable, 5th anniversary. Amazing. The Toronto office and the people involved in TouchDesigner worldwide sent their regards, I don't know, or congratulations on it. I don't think, I mean, the community here in Berlin, and everybody knows that kind of, but I'll repeat it. I don't think we would have this community without the Node Institute. And it's always been this beacon, in a way, for me personally as well, to attend virtually or in person and have all of you around to actually talk about what we're doing. Because also in times of, like Toronto can be sometimes a little bit isolating, so having this here was always a great, it is always a great thing. Anyway, so for this 5-year anniversary, I thought, what can I do? I figured, okay, I go through release notes of the last 5 years and look at all the things that might not be that big, or but I find important because we do have, on average, it seems, about 1,300 new features, fixes, enhancements. And now you could say, okay, the new features bring new bugs, so that's kind of, but we try to, we seem to be doing quite a bit per year, and I only realized that when I actually go through every single year and looking at the stuff that we did. So also myself, I find stuff in there that I had no clue about, which is always good. And so there's things that are hidden and that get missed a lot. And I thought, okay, I'll just gonna go through these things and just mention them again and point out a couple things. So it doesn't seem that long ago, 2019. Like, I mean, we had the summit in Montreal, 2019, I believe. Which was, yeah, this was really nice. I really liked it there. Surprisingly, it's also the year that we got Unicode in Touch, which seems such a normal thing now that we can render more than just standard ASCII. But yeah, that's 2019. Similar, the notch top came alive. We finally got binding to be able to have bidirectional control over parameters. Totally important, but often missed, is that we did add the build number in the title bar. I mean, that's important information there. The laser chop came online. This is a 5-year anniversary of it, and it's funny to, we're working with, or Eric, our developer, is working with Moritz from Laser Sollinger on re-engineering parts of it, but 5 years ago we had the first iteration of it. And sync to file, for a lot of those people who like scripting, this is was an important one to be able to drop content onto the disk right away when writing into DATS. Then Eric also worked on the bullet solver to bring actually dynamics into Touch. The FBX USD components were there. This is actually something I want to point out. I often find people don't know that they can get out, like we have these, let me turn power on. We have these sample animations of this person running here. And with an import select SOP, you can get the geometry out of the FBX component and perhaps manipulate it a little bit and animate it again. So import select was a nice thing to actually grab geometry. Now, while playing around with it, I found that Not everything necessarily makes sense, but sometimes things totally make sense. Not in the intended way, but this is when you're using another nice feature that was added around that time to normalize basically position and scale of a geometry. And you end up with this nicely abstract creature. Further going, yeah, NVIDIA Flow, lots of people use that. The line mat had its first iteration, mirror top. I forgot about that thing, but this is important to mirror easily images, I guess. Look up that, super important. Like, I mean, we didn't have that before, and now we have it. You can easily say happy 5th birthday out of a collection of words by reference it by index. Yeah, internal ops, I should mention, this is something I often see people not using or not necessarily knowing what it is. You can basically specify a name on any component by the shortcut name, like just give it any random name, and point to an operator somewhere inside that component. And now what you can do is, I should look because I forget these things. Now you can do take a select chop, for example. I know that it's a chop timer there, and with an expression, I opt dot. Now is that English or German? That's English. My timer. I get access to that operator. And the nice thing is that I get access to this operator anywhere where I am in this network. So it's a really useful shortcut to use. So I can go in here, and I'm way away from the timer. I don't even know where it is, but I just have to remember the shortcut that I gave it, and I can use it anywhere. Similar iPars work that way. You basically can fetch now any parameter from this operator. Let's say length, I think, is a parameter. So I can fetch any parameter from an operator anywhere in the network just by the shortcut anywhere in this component. So I think really useful, but not a lot used. Quickly going over this, yeah, pattern shop. I mean, the pattern shop is very well-rounded piece of module there, but more important, and I don't know how many people use it actually, parent panel size. Like, how often do you go into a top, into common, and when it says use input or something like this, you are like parent blah blah dot something, who knows, I don't. Instead, you can actually use parent panel size to grab the next panel up the dimensions. So when you create something, you don't even have to think about the size anymore. You just use the parent panel size, and it sets it for you automatically. Moving on, 2020, we added point cloud support. I think that was a little bit a big one. And with that came also something that often gets explained again on the forum, which is the normalized split and the view as points view for tops. So oftentimes you cannot actually understand the data that you look at in a top viewer, and cycling through the single, it's probably better shown with a noise, but you probably also know what I mean. It's hard to understand the data actually, especially when you go out of 8-bit and more into like 32-bit territory, and have something like this. So no, wait, amplitude up, offset down. You don't basically know what's happening beyond the 1 and the 0. So that's the reason why there is this normalized split, so that you can actually tell the range and look at your data in proper detail. Similarly with the view as points, which was a large support for the point cloud workflow back then. Equally, it was really awful for a long, long time, especially when dealing with larger LED installations, and we have a couple of people from Whiteboard here where they know this all too well, that you have a ton of channels and you need to push this into a texture, But textures actually have a limit, a resolution limit, like that depends on your hardware, in one direction. So you couldn't do over, I don't know, 20,000 at some point maybe, then 32,000 at another point. Anyway, it was this, there was a limit. So finally 2020 saw the light of fit to square, where you can take any length of a channel and push it into a square texture, making it much more contained. It's not 1 by 1,000 or 1,000 by 1, but basically here my 32 by 32 pixels. With, by the way, if anybody wonders, the extra pixels are, you can define what value they should have so that you can deal later on with those. Right, also useful, tagging images with custom headers. This is only possible with OpenEXR, but useful anyway. I mean, if you have a little bit of hard drive space, and usually nowadays it's not really that of an issue, you can write out, you can tag your images essentially. So if I want this to be an apple instead of a banana, then I can certainly do this because it says it's an apple, so it must be an apple. And so you can basically store information in your texture that you're saving and recall it again and recall that information. Really, in a lot of productions, this becomes fairly useful. Yeah, we moved these math function and limit or operations from the chop world into the top world. Added geo-instancing, the web server that saw the light of day, socket.io that, the pangolin laser support, bind chop so that you can actually bind from a chop. I believe this is not finished development. There's probably more coming at some point. The first time that the engine comp showed up, and I know, well, it took us a couple of years to round it up, I think, but that was the first year it was there. You can hold values by sample, which is amazing. Floating cloud licenses, well, yeah, sure, useful. 2021, lens distort top. Okay, so lens distort top. Normally, you think of the lens distort top as something maybe that's used in, you get a camera image and you want to undistort the camera image, but it's so useful just to use to distort your general visuals as well, because you can animate those things, and it's a really nice creative tool on beside actually having a very technical background. Spectrum top. Well, I'm not going to get into this. I had, I think, a roundtable on the spectrum top. It's a little bit strange out there, and the usage is not quite known, but it makes amazing pictures. Like, just try it out. Slug in text top, right, for nicely drawn text. Nowadays, we are used to being able to zoom in and see everything nicely rendered text-wise, but that was not the case until 2021. Actually later, but that was the first implementation of scalable text in textures. Oh yeah, inputs for generator operators. So before, generators, you could always tell are generators because they don't have an input, which meant that if I have a circle, I have to define the size of the circle. If I didn't have parent panel size, it was even more difficult. Anyway, then we added an input to it, which takes the resolution, makes it super useful very quickly. You, again, can have like one operator that defines size and then just hook it up with other stuff. And you also have on the output page the possibility to either just set the resolution, just draw the circle, or composite with various compositing operations, taking away a whole step of adding another composite top to the thing. Oh yeah, this is overlooked, but I mean, the corner pin, fine, you could corner pin things, but it always looked a little bit weird until it was said that, well, we just need to do it perspective. Now it looks more, like now you can actually use it to corner pin your image onto a wall or something like this easily, and you don't have to use Stoner. And another thing in the world of the whole, mostly I think LED stuff, was that when you convert a chop, a top to a chop, you could now also do it as a single channel instead of before generating as many channels as you have rows in the image. So making this a much nicer process there as well. 2022 came around, we added Apple Silicon support. The Vulkan API was a massive undertaking by mostly just Malcolm, who took basically the basement out of TouchDesigner and replaced it with a new one. The annotate comp, that was a long time coming. Wieland reminded me of that. I think we showed that first in 2019. But only got around actually showing it in 2022, because at that point we also then had finally high DPI panel rendering, which means that those texts are actually looking nice. Before it was zooming in and it was all pixelated, which wasn't doable. That syntax highlighting, exactly. Basically being able to see your code nicely highlighted, because normally it just looked all like general text. So I complain about this every time. The keyboard is in German, but it switches to English, and I have no clue where the keys are. It's half memory. I don't know. And I don't even know if this does something when I do now switch this to Python. Oh yes, look at that. Nicely, easy, more easily readable. And you see how nicely the text also renders. This was not the case before. With that, we also then added the text comp and geotext comp with their whole own set of functionality. The VST job came alive because that was a big request from the summit in Montreal actually in 2019. So Eric sat down and implemented that. Eric and Michelle, who was hired around 2021 or 2020, I can't remember. They worked on the WebRTC implementation. That was a big thing back then because everything was online, so people tried to talk online with each other. So, but I think there's more useful things now today as well. Optical flow top. Oh yeah, and the feature which I really like is the table.fill. So what you can do, initially you could use a table and you could say set size, and it would basically do a 3x4 table or whatever size you specified. But now you get these little extra parameters here where you can define the content for each row through cell expressions. And this can actually be, do I have that here? No, sorry. This can actually be very complex things. This is a very simple cell expression, just a list. And for each cell, me.subcall, it looks up the item in the list. So nothing outrageous, but you basically save scripts. You don't need to have a script to now fill a table with a lot of content. Par groups. Oh, right. Yeah, we added par groups. This is also something I think we are still going to do more with in the future. Sorry, trying to find those keys. Let me drag that in here. So what you can do is, if I want to assign a color to this color parameter here, then usually you would say .par. Probably color R. Equals 0.2. That didn't work. Color R there, and I have to set now every parameter of this color par group separately. But with par groups, this becomes much simpler because you can set these things at once. So 1, 2, 3. That didn't work because par group.color, and you can set it like this. So moving parameters from one to the other becomes more simple. You don't have to loop through things anymore. In 2023, and this now is already last year, at the Kudam roundtable I introduced, or no, that's not true. We introduced TD Bitwig at Spreehalle, last August, that must have been, or September. Unreal Engine came online, made something that Michelle as well worked very hard on, which is the ability to run TouchDesigner in Unreal Engine and blueprints. We added Oak support, which is a whole family of operators that supports the Oak AI on the edge cameras, which I believe still have a good future. You're able to write your own pipelines, upload the models to the camera, and only get the relevant data back. Timecode tools, really useful. You can control much simpler now, for example, a movie file with a timer by just looking at the timer's timecode. So it's now driven, the movie basically is driven by the timer timecode, and therefore any length changes or something like this nicely translate to the movie file playback. There is a whole bunch of operators that support the timecode, worthwhile investigating what you can do with that. The other thing, and this was a good feature here, the GLSL comp. Why is that there? Because the GLSL comp redraws is rendering directly to screen any shader that you write, so it's also resolution independent. So scaling these things is very easily. You don't have to do this in the top chain. It's automatically done directly to screen. What else do we have? Oh, Apple ProRes was a long time request. It took a while. We added the laser device job to bring all the laser devices into one operator. The Bloom top is very nice for general exploration of pretty things. Check that later. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Well, I'm trying to rush through this because I'm already over time as well. If you ever wonder, a lot of people don't know about the op snippets. So if I look at the lookup op snippets, you basically get little examples. And I'm just showing this because there's a lot. If you don't know how an operator works, there is content there. And sometimes you find weird things. Reporters cover whales exploding, exploding whales cover reporters. Then I wondered, where does that come from? And Nattoyur, that's Itzart. So that's Itzart's idea. A nice wordplay there. Where was I? Here. Oh yeah, we added the web installer, which saves you a lot of bandwidth when you're downloading builds regularly. Custom sequential parameters, it's a huge plus. We initially added this to prevent things like the constant job looking like there were 3 pages with 10 parameters on each page, so that was the limit as well. You could only have 30 parameters, but now with sequential parameters, you can just add as many as you like or you need. Remove, delete from the middle, do whatever. And in 2023, we also added support for these things in custom parameters. The whole nice thing is that it's not just single parameters, but as you can see, for example, in the GLSL top, it's parameter groups. So it can be whole sets of parameters that you can easily multiply or remove, making custom component design much more powerful. Oh yeah, that's a big one too. Like, I mean, drop shadows. There was a long time request. It's missing the color, but we'll add that, I promise. But I mean, yeah. How many times did I have to add a drop shadow past two things? Anyway. Noise tops now have the slope, which is great for particle simulations. Basically, you don't just get the 3D noise. It's not just the noise values, but actually the slope between the noise values. I showed that before, the pulse chop second input. Look back at that. It makes the pulse chop much more useful. There's a funny one. Sorry, I have to find this. Who has used OpX? Has anybody ever used OpX? Does anybody know about OpX? Oh, one, great, Dan, thank you. I actually forgot about it. until I read it again. Okay. What? Let me try that again. Okay, let's just go there. I could just use here. TD module. Okay. OpX. So this is an operator finder object, accessing operators. Works like op shortcut, but it raises an error or raises an exception if it cannot find the op. Okay, and this is important. This is now the recommended way to get nodes in parameter expressions. So remember that. This is what it is. Par reset, resetting parameters wasn't possible via Python before. Ooh, this is a good one. Your custom parameters, like if you add a custom parameter, test, add the parameter, you could set a default, but the default would always be just a value, and then when people said reset to defaults, if you had any expressions in your component, this would be also removed and your expression was gone. Nowadays, you have the opportunity to actually set default expressions or default bind expressions and the default mode as well. So if it should be in an expression or bind mode or constant mode, this can be done via the component editor or the par class itself. A nice one too, rows and calls, and row and call has a value attribute in it, which means that when you are trying to get to the values of a table, well, let's do row. Like usually, no, what? Do I have to? Okay, 0, yes. So usually what you get back when you do row, you get the whole row object. So that's a list of cells. But what if you just want the values? Often enough you end up with list comprehension looping through it, but not anymore, because now you can say comma val equals true, and it's just a list of values. Tiny thing, super useful. Oh, yeah, we added the MPCDI top that to enable, that's the exchange format for projector. It's basically a projector calibration interchange format, which makes it possible to use calibration data also without necessarily having access to the Vioso or the scalable display operators, because those are behind commercial licenses. And well, then we get to 2024, and one thing I really loved, I don't know if I mentioned that already, is the remap option for the S-curve chop. So before, and this was annoying me a lot, you basically had a length for the S-curve, and then you set the prepend, and you set the append, but the whole thing scales the length of your S-curve actually changes. And that made it really hard to generate multiple S-curves in one chop, which is what I like to do. Now we have the remap lengths, and therefore you can create as many S-curves in one chop as you want with different prepend and append options, and always get to the same lengths. This was a great addition. There's now a recenter head-mounted display trigger on the OpenVR chop. Otherwise, this is really difficult. Socket.io is version 3, version 4, but we have this POPs thing that you might have heard about. This is also fun. It's a little bit a different workflow, and you got to get used to it because you're dealing more with actual attributes that affect things that you do. So, you can define. You might define something as an attribute like the white portions here. What shows up white in this texture here might be a value, and now I can use this value to, for example, drive the twist operator, like the amount of twist with that. So you're going to be, if you're going into POPs, you're going to be working much more with these kind of attributes that then affect parameters or function in other operators. Makes the whole thing very powerful. If you haven't seen that yet, good question. Well, wait a little bit or write us an email. Currently, you need a commercial license to get access to the alpha, and the alpha comes with a lot of example files to see what we're doing there. TDI-lib is a nice thing. That's something that Ivan worked on mainly. I helped a little bit on the wiki side. Basically, Wieland showed that a year ago, his implementation, and we took it to clean up the wiki as well. If you now write a script, actually, like things like or VS Code especially, now knows about all the TouchDesigner types, the specific types. So if you define A as a movie file intop and reference it, then now I have access to, for example, all the parameters that the movie file intop has. So it makes it a little bit easier to script, and especially also your scripts don't look like a whole mess because everything was underlined and like marked as an error. Now this is properly showing up, and also with the help from the wiki. Doing this, a big effort was also to clean up the wiki, which is nice. So now the wiki is actually more correct than it was before, and more consistent, especially. So, yeah, I don't know, B equals TDU dot matrix or something. So you can build up a matrix and now see what the matrix has as its members or methods, things like that. Very useful. You get used to it very quickly. Oh, to enable this, so if you have access to the alpha, or you wait a little bit, then what you will have to do, you will have to set the interpreter to the TouchDesigner Python file or Python executable that comes with it. So basically, click down here, enter interpreter path, then navigate to the TouchDesigner folder where you have TouchDesigner installed, select the Python exe, and the whole thing starts working. It is as simple as that. And, oh yeah, that's a new one. This is nice, actually. I really like this one. Out operators have a select operator parameter now. Now, why is this useful? Because often when you create components that have replicators inside that is replicating components that might have outs, you often see that you have to write a little script in the replicator to wire these things up, which is, I don't like that. It's kind of like you need to figure out too many things. So now, with these out operators having select parameters, you can, as before, as you would do with a replicator as well, everything becomes just a dynamic reference. So your replicator callback stays empty, and everything is just a dynamic script reference to the operator that you're actually trying to get the output from to transport it to the outside here. What you have to do, which is a little bit funny, but that's how it works, is that you probably want to replicate the out operators out of another base comp. Otherwise, you end up with this extra out on the actual base comp where you want them in. Anyway, that's just on the side. And yeah, that's 35 minutes of stuff. I hope it was, I mean, it was not the prettiest, but hopefully some useful things in there for you. Yeah. Any questions?
It was a good reminder that you have not been doing nothing the last 5 years. Thank you for that. Yeah. Do we have questions from the audience? James, you've been complaining so much before. Now is the moment to shine. Not now.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, have a look through the release notes. It is really it's quite impressive what's in there, and a lot of these changes come from the community. It's forum bug reports and forum RFEs that find their way in here. It's extensive. Yeah, it's a good if you have time on the train or I don't know.
Yeah, especially sometimes you're ready to understand something that came out 5 years ago and you missed it back then. But I'm kind of shocked about the drop shadows, that I've not heard about that any time before. It's like very essential. Well, if there's no urgent question that couldn't be asked to Markus in person, then maybe we leave it at that. I think we've had very long talks today, and we also still have to celebrate, and we have exciting live acts coming up. So thank you, Markus, for being with us again and reminding us of those little changes could have made our life easier the last 5 years if we would have just read the bloody release notes.
Yes.
Up next will be Felipe, who will do a psychedelic performance, musical performance. We'll have a little changeover, and then we'll be back with psychedelic energy. Thank you, Markus, for coming.
you.